Her suspicions grew stronger when her best friend Clara became one of the victims. Clara had confided in Eliza that she had been spending time with Tobias. Eliza hadn't thought much of it at the time, but now it felt like too much of a coincidence. Determined to find the truth, Eliza began to investigate. She observed Tobias closely, watching how he interacted with the villagers. She noticed that he always seemed to know exactly what to say, as if he could read people's thoughts. And then there was his hut. Something about it felt wrong. Eliza decided to dig deeper. She began questioning the women who had spent time with Tobias, but had escaped his trap. Their stories were all the same. Tobias had made them feel special. But there was always a strange moment when they felt uneasy around him, as if something was lurking beneath his charming exterior. Eliza knew she was onto something, but she also knew that confronting Tobias directly would be dangerous. She needed a plan, and she needed to be careful. Eliza's plan was as dangerous as it was simple. She would make Tobias believe that she had fallen for him. It was a gamble, but it was the only way to get close enough to uncover the truth. She knew that Tobias preyed on vulnerable women, so she began to act the part. At first, she dropped subtle hints, smiling at him more often and lingering near him during village gatherings. Tobias took notice quickly, and his eyes began to linger on her in return. Eliza hated every moment of it, but she forced herself to play along. One evening, she made her move. She approached Tobias while he was chopping wood near his hut. "You're always so strong and reliable," she said, letting her voice soften. "It must be hard, being new here and not having anyone to talk to." Tobias smiled, his charm as potent as ever. "It has its challenges," he replied, "but the people here have been so kind, especially someone like you." Eliza felt a chill run down her spine, but she held her ground. Over the next few days, she let Tobias believe that she was falling for him. She accepted his invitations for walks and laughed at his jokes. The villagers, unaware of her true intentions, began to whisper about how lucky she was to have caught his attention. Finally, Tobias invited her to his cottage one evening. "Just for tea," he said, flashing that disarming smile. Eliza agreed, though her heart pounded with fear. She had prepared for this moment, tucking a small dagger into her dress. If her suspicions were correct, she would need it. As she stepped into Tobias's dimly lit home, Eliza knew she was walking into the lion's den. But she was ready. Inside Tobias's cottage, the air was heavy with tension. The room was lit by a single candle, its flickering light casting strange shadows on the walls. Tobias seemed calm, pouring tea as if this were any ordinary evening. But Eliza noticed the way his hands lingered near his waist, where the serpent would emerge. "Thank you for coming," Tobias said, his voice smooth as silk. "I feel like I can be myself around you, Eliza." He had begun to fall to her own charm. She had gotten a charm that makes people speak their truth, one that makes people reveal their deepest secret. Eliza forced a smile. "I feel the same way. There's something about you, Tobias. Something different." At her words, Tobias's demeanor shifted. His eyes darkened, and his charming smile faded. "Different, you say?" he asked, stepping closer. "What do you mean by that?" Eliza's heart raced. She knew she was close to the truth. "I mean, there's something about you that feels like a secret, something you're hiding." For a moment, Tobias was silent. Then, to her surprise, he laughed, a low, bitter sound. "You're smarter than the others, but you already know that, don't you?" Eliza reached for her dagger, but Tobias raised a hand. "Wait," he said, "you want the truth? Fine, I'll tell you everything." And then, Tobias confessed, he told her about his mother, who was cursed by a dark sorcerer. The only way to save her was to collect 150 souls, each one represented by a star in the night sky. The serpent, he explained, was both his curse and his tool, a creature bound to him by dark magic. "I didn't want this," Tobias said, his voice breaking, "but I had no choice. I had to save her." Eliza felt a pang of pity, but she knew what she had to do. As Tobias finished his confession, Eliza gripped the dagger hidden beneath her cloak. Her heart was pounding, but she forced herself to stay calm. Tobias had revealed everything: his mission, the serpent, and the souls he needed to save his mother. For a fleeting moment, she saw the pain in his eyes, the desperation of a man trying to save someone he loved. but the evil he had committed couldn't be forgiven. "Do you expect me to pity you?" Eliza asked, her voice sharp. "You've killed innocent women, Tobias. Whatever your reasons, this is unforgivable." Tobias's face hardened. The vulnerability he had shown moments ago was gone, replaced by the cold, calculating predator that had charmed his way through the village. "You don't understand," he hissed. "This isn't about choice, it's about survival. If I don't finish this, my mother dies." Eliza took a step back, her fingers tightening around the hilt of the dagger. "You're not the only one who's lost someone they love," she said, "but we all make choices, Tobias. You chose this." Tobias laughed bitterly. "You think you can stop me? You're just another naive villager, like all the others." At that moment, Tobias began to summon the serpent. His body tensed, and a faint hissing sound filled the room. Eliza knew she had only seconds to act. As the serpent's dark, glistening body emerged from Tobias's waist, Eliza lunged forward, driving the poisoned dagger into his chest. Tobias let out a cry. The serpent writhed violently, its movements erratic, as if it too was dying. Tobias fell to the ground, clutching his chairs. "You don't understand," he gasped, his voice fading. "I did this for her, for my mother." The serpent let out one final hiss before it vanished into thin air, leaving Tobias lifeless on the floor. Eliza stood over him, her breathing heavy, the dagger still in her hand. It was over. The nightmare was finally over. With Tobias dead, the serpent's curse was broken. The village would no longer be haunted by mysterious deaths, and the women were safe. Eliza left his hut, her hands trembling but her heart resolute. The villagers had heard the commotion and gathered outside. When they saw Tobias's lifeless body and heard Eliza's account of what had happened, the truth hit them like a thunderclap. Shock and sorrow rippled through the crowd. Many of them had trusted Tobias, admired him, even loved him. To learn that he was the monster behind the deaths was almost too much to bear. But despite their anger and grief, they were grateful to Eliza for her bravery. She had exposed the truth and put an end to Tobias's reign of terror. The next day, the village held a meeting in the square, the same place where Tobias's victims had been found. The elders declared that Tobias's story would be passed down as a warning to future generations, a tale of deception, greed, and the lengths people would go to for love. Meanwhile, far away in Tobias's homeland, his mother's fate was sealed. Without the souls Tobias had promised, her life faded away. She passed peacefully, as if she had known all along that her son's mission would fail. Perhaps she had hoped he would find another way, one that didn't involve sacrificing innocent lives. For Eliza, she often found herself gazing at the stars, thinking about the souls Tobias had taken, and the man he could have been if his life had been different. The village slowly began to heal, but the scars of Tobias's actions remained. His story became a legend, a chilling tale told around fires to remind people that evil often wears a charming face. As for Eliza, she remained a hero in the eyes of the villagers, though she didn't see herself as one. She had done what was necessary, but the memory of Tobias's final words lingered in her mind. "I did this for her, for my mother." In the end, Tobias's love for his mother had consumed him, turning him into a monster, and while Eliza had stopped him, she couldn't help but wonder, was his heart, in some twisted way, in the right place? The stars above the village shone brighter now, as if they, too, carried the weight of the souls Tobias had taken. And in the quiet moments, when the village was still, Eliza would look to the night sky and remember the handsome stranger who had brought both love and death to their peaceful home. Thank you for watching. If you find this story interesting, please like, share, and subscribe. And remember, not all that glitters is gold.